So welcome everybody. Tonight we are hosting a Carolina Ed Chat, which is the first of its kind that we have had. So we're actually partnering up with SC Ed to start to form a partnership and build something bigger with the two Carolinas. So tonight at least we can be friends. So joining us tonight in the panel, we have Jill Thompson. And she is, well, Jill, would you like to talk just a little bit about what you do?
Hi, yes. I am Jill Thompson. I am the Personalized Learning Program Manager in Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools. And so we have 15 schools in our first cohort, and we're adding on 18 more.
So staying busy for sure. Very exciting stuff. And I know that in North Carolina, we are doing personalized learning in pockets, maybe not nearly as awesomely or as organized as Jill is, but that's why we have her expertise tonight to talk and learn some awesome strategies and ways to implement personalized learning. So if everybody would please make sure to follow along with the Carolina Ed hashtag on Twitter. There will be a lot of awesome conversation tonight coming out, I'm sure. So as soon as we get things squared away here, it looks like we've got some people coming in. We'll go ahead and get started with our first question discussion.
I have to give a shout out to Josh Lemire, who just joined the Twitter feed. He's
yes.
One of the teachers that I work with, who's amazing, and just he works with a lot of gifted students and just had 273% growth on his.
Oh, that is awesome.
He is a rock star.
Gotta let him know in case he's not watching.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he is either.
Are you still there? Okay, maybe.
Sorry, I'm here. I was.
No, you are so fine. I just wanted to make sure I hadn't lost you. Okay, great. Kenny McKee is joining us tonight from Asheville. Welcome, Kenny.
And James, you didn't put your Carolina hashtag on there.
See, not even used to it. And Darcy Grimes is coming in. I'm going to copy and paste the string of hashtags so that I don't forget. I'll just paste it every time. So, Jill, before we get started talking about personalized learning, do you know of any other places in North Carolina or places that, excuse me, are doing personalized learning, I guess as kind of an organized effort?
I know Gifford County has been doing it. They've started it with some of their middle schools. It was part of their race to the top. And I know we had over 70 educators come to our personalized learning tour. And a lot of them were in North Carolina or from North Carolina, and they were very interested in starting. I talked today to Johnston County as well. So
that's awesome.
Pockets.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Well, that's cool. I wish that, it was something that was more widespread because there's definitely a need for it. I just wonder why we're just now having a conversation, but we can get to that. I think that's one of the questions.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. And we've got Sarah Longshore, assistant principal at Dutch Fork High School in Irmo, South Carolina. Welcome. And Carla Jefferson, also from South Carolina, 6th grade ELA teacher. So welcome, Carla.
Yay.
Okay, so our first question is coming out. First question from Chris is, what is personalized learning? So Jill, I'm going to submit to you for that first one.
Okay. Well, I think personalized learning is different for every district. I really think that the district needs to decide what it needs to look like, because what it's going to look for a charter school of a couple hundred kids is going to look very different to a district like ours, where we have 147,000 students. So I do think the main thing, the underlining, is that it's student driven. And some people say student centric, but I think student driven is a better word, because we really want students to take ownership of their learning. And I know I can say in CMS, we started, we had our teachers create our definition and our foundation, and then each of our 15 schools are different as well. So they don't have a ceiling, so they still have that innovation, but they have that same foundation and same cornerstones.
Wow, that's incredible. So I'm looking at this learner profile, which for those of you who are listening in, we have linked this in the blog post on the NC Ed blog, which is ncedchat.blogspot.com. I'll tweet that out for you. I've tweeted out a resource page on personalized learning that Jill's team has put together. And it just briefly talks about, you know, what the foundations of personalized learning in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools are. And it's really, you know, I know helped me in my own understanding of personalized learning to come to a better notion of what it means to implement. And I'm reading this learner profile, which is beautiful, by the way. And I guess I just want to hit on a few of the tenets of personalized learning. So personalized learning scholars strive to be creative and critical thinkers. So that's, of course, hitting on those 21st century skills that are so important in our schools, the 4 C's, which is just a portion of the P21 framework. Effective communicators and collaborators, which are the other 2 C's of the P21 framework. Entrepreneurs. So again, you're talking about that self-starting, student-led learning experience where students actually want to create and engage in you know, student-led learning activities. Flexible and adaptable and receptive and reflective to feedback. And I think feedback is also super important, especially feedback that's in the moment. And then at the bottom, it just talks about self-directed learners and leaders and people who are risk takers. So all of that would say to me that, you know, personalized learning is just doing school right for our children and for our teachers and making learning fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things we strive for, is that we want personalized learning to not be looked at as not another thing. And so just taking these best practices and really being more purposeful, and again, having it be student-led. So, you know, teachers have always been using data to help them drive their instruction, but now having students also use that data to see where they are, how they can do better.
So can you talk a little bit more about that experience of using data and how you get students to transition to using that data in, I guess, the personalized learning classroom? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, it looks different in each classroom, but for an example, we are having students create data trackers. And so we're really trying to teach them to triangulate their data and show mastery in multiple different ways. So they are showing mastery through assessments, but they're also showing it through a project or problem-based learning activity. And then also, I think a lot of times we forget just our anecdotal notes and our conferencing. So we do student-led conferences as well. So we've been teaching, really having teachers triangulate the data, but then also having the students triangulate that as well with data trackers. So when they go in and they put their scores, it automatically highlights, you know, green means you're on task, you've mastered it, yellow, you partially mastered, red, you haven't mastered. And that helps the students pick their different pathways or playlists based on their needs. And it's all done by skill so that they can move through the curriculum at their own pace.
And that is incredible. So, and another thing I think that's really beneficial about that is when you give students the ability to begin keeping that data and you empower them to actually, I guess, be a part of their own evaluation, if you will. I would think that that would really make them feel, I guess, more invested in their learning experiences because they have a say, you know. And there are so many things also that teachers may not be able to catch in the classroom that the students would be able to account for and even provide evidence for. So I think that's also really cool whenever you're going back and trying to give good, authentic feedback on student artifacts because there may be evidences that they gather that you don't, if I'm understanding that correctly.
Absolutely. That's exactly what we're saying.
That's great. Yeah, it looks like a few people, before we jump to question 2, gave some pretty awesome answers to answer one. So Mr. Lemire says that personalized learning is giving students choice in their path and pace of instruction and mastery. They take ownership of learning. So couldn't agree more. Let me see, try to scroll out of the A2s. Nathan Stevens says it may still include worksheets if we're making paper airplanes. I guess it just depends.
You have to have this glitter snark.
Yes, exactly. Where's the hashtag? Glitter snark hashtag. Where students use tools they're comfortable with using to express the knowledge they've learned. Dennis Dill said that personalized learning focuses on what he, or I guess the individual, needs to learn. It's all about him and his needs as a teacher. And I would say that yes, but that also goes with what students need as well, for sure. And Kenny McKee says, still learning more about personalized learning, but it also seems that student agency is important for learning to be truly personalized. And again, I think that's one of the things that I love the most about it. I couldn't agree more. I'm gonna, let's see, we'll go ahead and talk about question 2. So second question, why are we choosing now to focus on personalizing student learning instead of years before? I know that personalized learning is not something that's brand new, and we've talked about it in research for some time, but it's not something that we've ever directly addressed. We've not united to implement. So I would be interested, Jill, to hear what you've got to say about that, why you think that it's just now something that we are able to focus on.
I think technology has really helped us be able to focus on it a little bit more because we're using it now as a tool and to help us with students. And again, going back to like the data tracking, students are able to use the technology to track their data, which they could have done on pencil and paper, but it wouldn't be as easy. I also think that people are starting to realize that our world is ever changing now, and so that we really need to prepare students for all aspects, and problem solving is a big thing. And so having that rote memorization is just not working anymore. I know for our district, we really looked at our graduation rate. We have a very high graduation rate for an urban large school district, but we're still seeing that a lot of our students were graduating, going to college, but actually not completing the first year because they didn't have that ownership piece, and they weren't told what to do, so they didn't really know what to do. So that's one of the big reasons also that really helped us decide this is the way to go. I know the Race to the Top grant also got things sparked along with the Gates grant as well, or I shouldn't say the Gates grant, but the Gates Foundation. So I think now it's just becoming more popular, so more people are talking about it and starting to see the change in the effects.
So you'd say it's becoming more widespread because of the ability, I guess, to use technology as a vehicle, not only to implement it, but also to spread, its benefits.
Absolutely, and programs now are helping with that too. We use Compass Learning, which is adaptive. So when students take their MAP test, the Compass Learning is meeting them at their level. So now the teacher can guide them as well, but somebody else is also giving them that playlist too. But I don't want to misconstrue that a teacher is not needed. I'm just saying that the technology is just...
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I don't want to come off sounding like you don't need a teacher anymore in the classroom, because that is not true. I think personalized learning makes it even more. Those relationships and building is very important.
I would 100% agree. And I think it takes a lot when we're having these conversations about teachers as facilitators as opposed to, the sages on the stage, for lack of a better term. That really, I think you have to have teachers take a step back and look at the teaching practices and change the philosophy to be a teacher in this age, because student-led environment, so a personalized learning environment, you cannot have the teacher take all of the credit or all the control. And I think secondary teachers are guilty of that a lot as well, because they're teachers who, and I was a secondary ed teacher, so I can say this, I think they have a hard time letting go because, the content is so important and so vital that it becomes difficult to, you know, in this age of accountability, it becomes difficult to let go of that and not always be the director of instruction and everything. And to let students design activities and choose how your time is spent is kind of a scary thing. But I think also at the same time, when you do it as well as you have, you kind of don't have to worry about that. You have, you know, the data tracking and students who are accountable for what they're learning and students who are aware of what they need to learn, and a teacher who facilitates those learning experiences for them, you know, guides and makes sure that they are on the right track through the different pathways and et cetera. So I really like that you just shared a resource, the shift of the role of the teacher. So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, this is one of the ways we've been trying to help our teachers really change their practice, going from, like you said, that lecturer, that stand and deliver person, to more of that coach, where you're adapting the students adapting the students' learning according to their specific needs. And I gave some suggestions too of how you can move up from that ladder. One of the big things, like you said, secondary was a little bit harder because they are trained differently as well. You know, they've been very content driven. And so having them just create mini lessons that are 10 to 15 minutes really helped them see how much more students could apply their learning to the mini lessons. And then from there, we started going away from that whole group instruction and started using some blended learning station rotation models. So now they are becoming a little bit more of a facilitator of the learning and having mini lessons throughout, so they're based on the student's needs. And that really helped. I know the other day I walked into one of my high schools and I was really excited because I could not find the teacher. And that's because she was with a small group in the back of the room, you know, working with the kids. All the kids were on task, but it was awesome not to see them in rows and the teacher at the front of the room.
Hearing all of this just makes me really miss teaching. I would like to see so many teachers be able to walk through your district and the classrooms that you work in, just so that they could see what their classroom can look like. And I know you guys do have something. I don't know if you have any more of the dates in the future, but have you? Do you have another date for your walkthroughs?
Not this year, as testing has kind of started. So we will offer 3 more next year because we sold out rather fast. We weren't expecting that. So we'll do one fall, spring, and summer, and that will be on our webpage soon. Okay. One of these dates will be. I do want to give out to a shout out to one of our personalized learning principals. Kevin Sudamak has joined the Twitter chat as well. And he is right. He wrote, you know, one of the shifts for teachers is that our teachers are not creating lesson plans anymore. They're creating the pathways and the playlists for our students. We're really focusing on not what the teacher's doing, but what the students are doing. So instead of it being, again, more, you know, teachers always say, I don't have enough time. We kind of swapped the time, so it was a little bit differently used. So our plan is very different, a lot of front loading, but worth it.
That sounds incredible. So these documents where you're having these lesson plans, so you talk about a pathway. Do students have much, are students involved in the pathway planning or the pathway process?
So yes and no. Our pathways are created by skill. So if you, for example, let's take 5.NF1. So they're, you know, comparing and ordering fractions. In that pathway, they have choice and they have their voice inside them, but the pathway is kind of set. So for example, they can pick 2 out of the 3 boxes, for an example. So that's where their voice comes into play. But that way we also are still teaching the skills that are going to be tested, but they also get to work at their own pace. So sometimes you'll be in a classroom where several students are on several different pathways at different levels, which is really good to see. At first, very stressful for some teachers, but when they realize how much the ownership piece of the students is taking it, they realize how much easier it is on their end. And because they're having that student-led conferencing, they're able to actually know more about their students and where they are than what they were doing previously.
And how does the data tracking work with that for the students?
Yep. So when the students have showed mastery in that skill, that's when they can get their next pathway. Until they show that mastery, they can't gain that next pathway. So that's how they use it. Now, if they show partially mastered, they can sign up for a a small group mini lesson if they would like to, or sometimes there's videos that they can go if they want to watch that Khan Academy video again or that Learn Zillion video again. They can do that as well.
Wow. Okay. I'm just in awe. I'm learning so much. Well, let's take a look at some tweets and see what we have going on with Chris here. So Nathan Stevens said that we have to enable the chaos of learning to make it truly personalized. And then James Potter, who was joining us from Raleigh, said that it creates a lot more work, which many teachers are afraid of. And Nathan says, how is it more work? You do group work and move between students. So I just left the classroom just 6 months ago to become a technology coordinator. And the thing that I realized when I was still teaching and as I transitioned and I now coach teachers on technology integration was that there is a lot of front work, like you've said, to develop these things. But once you've taken care of the front work, it kind of directs itself. And the same is true with problem-based learning, project-based learning, any kind of pedagogy that is, student-centered, because you do provide a lot of, the key framework for students because you are giving them the ability to take it from you. And to do that, you have to have frameworks of accountability and frameworks for data collection and frameworks for like the way that the class should run. But I think from that, it kind of looks like chaos. I taught at Discovery High School for a while, and Discovery is a project-based learning school solely. And so every time I would develop a new PBL unit, I would start with the end in mind. And by the time that we were done with the unit, we had a lot of really cool projects, and we had kids that were working with community members, creating these new initiatives. Like we had a student who has created a bioswale. He's actually contracted with the city of Conover to filter rainwater at the schools and use that to water plants and to do other things. So it's pretty cool how he's doing that. And we had a student who 3D printed a prosthetic hand that is actually being used by an 8-year-old boy. So and that's all based on this project-based learning. It's all tied back to the curriculum. So I think you do have to enable the chaos of learning. In terms of implementing personalized learning.
Agreed. And it is. Change is hard, so going slow. I think that was one of the things that we learned with our rollout is that we allowed the schools to move at their own pace as well. So we personalized for each one of them as well. So some schools went all out and, they wanted it to be in all of their grade levels. Some schools focused on one subject area, some focused on one grade level. So example, for 9th grade, our high school, they wanted to focus on 9th grade because those 8th graders didn't really technically know what high school looked like, so they felt a little bit safer. And then they're going to bleed it up next year so that their 10th grade will be doing it, and then they have their 9th grade already done. So.
And you think that has helped to encourage teacher adoption and student adoption as well by giving them the different scales of implementation? Yeah,
I think so because, again, just like students, they were able to have their own voice and choice and pace. So they had a little bit more buy-in. And then we had we had one middle school, for example, where their 6th grade team, man of 4 or 5 teachers were doing PL, but their other 6th grade team of pod was not. But Q1, when that data came back and showed 30-point gains, they're like, that non-PL team was like, hey, what are you doing? So then they automatically get that buy-in too. So it spread.
It's kind of like an infectious disease like that. It's pretty exciting whenever you get people excited about, these things. Like we have a school in our district that's next year is going to be focusing on blended learning. And our school is so excited. It's an elementary school. We have teachers who are applying for grants right and left, and going all out, absolutely all out, to be able to make the blended learning happen. Talking about ways that they're going to collaborate with other teachers next year, grade level teams, and what planning is going to look like differently. And it's any of the people who were paranoid or concerned beforehand are starting to come around, and it's really cool to see that from a coaching perspective, especially. So very exciting stuff.
I agree, and I think I'm about to tweet out different philosophies of education, and this really helped our teachers as well, and they helped create this document so that you can see what differentiation is versus individualized versus personalized, and what the role looks like and what the student role looks like. And so you can see that it builds upon each other, but they're all still great practices. I think a lot of times that misconception of I have to do personalized learning all the time is not true. Sometimes you'll do individualized and sometimes you'll differentiate. It all depends on where your students are and what their needs are.
That's so meta, but it's very true. And I think that's also true of different frameworks as well. I mean, if you have a student who, I guess, if we're talking about learning modalities, if you have students who learn differently with different learning modalities, it works like that. But I don't know. I am honestly not that experienced in personalized learning implementation, so my skill is limited. So I'm definitely learning more about what that looks like. And I've been fortunate enough to hear you speak and hear some other educators speak who are working to implement personalized learning in schools, who are doing it through a variety of different methods and tools. And it's really interesting to see how people who are on different parts of the journey approach it. Some people are totally organized and some people just jump in. I know when I had my classroom, my students and I used Canvas Learning Management System. And every single day we would start out all together doing the same activity, but then it wasn't quite, I wouldn't call it a pathway, but we kind of diverted after that to different projects. So I would assign a certain group of people a text, and I was an English teacher. We would read that text and then they would have a different project for that. So I had some students who read The Hot Zone by Richard Preston, and we did, that's a text about an Ebola outbreak in the United States in the 1980s. And so we took that and they did a project. And they had a separate, I guess, learning pathway for the same standards that another group had for, an entirely different text. So it was pretty cool to see how that was working in small groups. I don't know if that's quite personalized learning, but it was definitely different for different students in the classroom based on preference and ability.
Absolutely. And again, I think that's on that continuum. So all good work.
Yeah. There's definitely some things that I would go back and do over if I had the opportunity, but I like to think that I gave it my best shot.
Well, it's nice to hear how you use Canvas too, because as you know, North Carolina just adopted Canvas, and we just got it in our district as well. So I actually just got fully trained yesterday. So
exciting! Did Patrick come and train you?
He did. We had Patrick, and we also had oh man, now I'm gonna forget his name. We had another guy.
Will Esters.
What is it?
Will Esters.
No, he was from Rock Hill too.
Oh,
it's escaping me now.
Shoot.
Yep, but Patrick was with us.
Cool. Was that a pretty good experience? Pretty positive? You guys learned a lot?
Yeah, I'm very excited about a lot of the components that can fit into our personalized learning. I really like the standard-based mastery learning piece in there, so that, that will help our data trackers. And I'm just we were playing in quote, quote, the sandbox, so it will be nice to see how it works with PowerSchool and all those types of things as well. So getting there.
Yeah, so we actually just implemented it in Newton County District back in January, and it has been awesome. Teacher buy-in has actually taken place through a whole lot of teachers using it in pockets, and then integrating it with PowerSchool and using SpeedGrader, and then using the grade passback feature to push their grades directly to their gradebook. And everybody has been so impressed and so excited that it kind of selling itself, to be honest. So it's been a really awesome experience. I love Canvas. I'm a huge fan.
Well, that's good to hear somebody that's been using it say that. So
Yes, it was great. I actually used it in higher ed and used it in K-12. So I taught a class completely online through Canvas and 3D Game Lab, technology in the classroom course, and that was pretty fun. So it works. It just works. It's just simple. Okay, so we have moved on in the Twitter chat, and you have been doing a great job of keeping up. I not so much. But it looks like we're on question 5 now. So in what ways have you seen personalized learning improve student learning or renew student engagement?
So we've seen a huge increase in student engagement, and because of that huge increase in student engagement, our referrals and discipline has gone down. So that has been a great win for us. Some of our schools also started Genius Hour, which if you don't know, Genius Hour is also passion-based learning, and so they started at 7:15 in the morning, which that's when their doors open, and their bell rings at 7:45. But they do it from 7:15 to 8:15, and that's really helped their tardy situation. And so the students are coming in on time because they want to work on their Genius Hour project.
Oh, that's so cool.
That has been another awesome experience.
That makes me excited. That makes me want to be a student in your school.
Yes, and they are just absolutely loving it. And then the other piece now we're starting to see is our MAP data growth. Like I shared about Josh Shamir, he teaches gifted students, and they're sometimes the hardest to grow. And this is his first year that he has seen this much growth. Every single kid grew, and he had 273% growth. So he was super excited last week when he got those results. So the data is also speaking for it. So that's always a good thing. Let's hope it correlates to EOGs now.
Oh, yes. I'm sure it will. The data doesn't lie.
I agree. And we have to remember that we also have those soft skills, those learner profiles too, that we're really growing. We're still seeing a huge independence of our students. They're really empowered in their learning and wanting to know more. So before, when they did a project, that was it. They turned it in and that was that. Now our students are really like wanting to go deeper and wanting to continue it, which is great because they are loving learning.
That's really, really awesome. That makes me excited. That's one of the same reasons that I really enjoy gaming in education, not just gamification, but actually using video games in education, because it's such a great draw. And, we're doing so much research now on why when we fail in video games, we don't care, because we just, pick it right back up and try to succeed again. And I think personalized learning has a lot of those same tenets and characteristics that, gaming and education does. So like with the passion-based learning through Genius Hour, students are so excited about having some extra time and resources even at their disposal to create things that matter to them, or things that can actually make a difference in somebody's life or in the school or anything of that nature, that they want to come in and be academic and successful. And I think that is so important. And so many schools are not doing that. And I don't understand why, because you can open a school at 7:15 and have students, come into the media center and collaborate for 30 minutes. There's no, I don't know. You can do smart lunch during your lunch. You can move your schedule and make that happen. There's so many opportunities to do it. So I don't know. I don't know why it doesn't happen more.
Agreed. I know one of our principals did a really great exercise with his teachers. Is he had them, and I hope I don't do this story injustice here, but he is in the chat. So he had his teachers research elephants, and they had to come back and give a little some facts about elephants. And then they had them research their own animal and how much more they knew about that animal, because they got to choose the animal, and how much more facts they brought to the plate really got them to open their eyes to imagine if you applied that to students. So that was a good little exercise that helped the teachers really see the why behind it.
Oh, that is awesome. And it's really an eye-opening experience, I bet, for the principal as well, because you see how many teachers have their batteries recharged for teaching who maybe are starting to be burned out when they see, that there is some kind of importance to personalized learning that hits home for them just as much as that, it would for a student. So like, if I can feel this way when I do this, why do I not do it for my kids? Just like you're saying. So.
Yeah, which is great. And that's something else that we've noticed. I've had a lot of teachers that have said to me, I've been teaching for 18 years and my passion for teaching is back, which is always great.
Oh, man. Yeah, that is huge. Especially in a time where, things are difficult for teachers in terms of, policy and legislation and everything. That's a really exciting thing to hear, that people actually want to do it because of the kids and because of what they can do. So that's exciting. It's very.
A lot of great tweets though that are coming through. So it's great to learn from everybody else.
Oh, definitely. So yeah, we have some great tweets. You broke up right there. I couldn't understand what you said before our coming through.
I was just saying that the tweets are really coming through now, and a lot of great suggestions. I'm excited to have to go back and read this later.
Yes, the Storify is going to be great. I'm really excited about the NC Ed, SC Ed combination for Carolina Ed, because you get so many different perspectives when you cross the state lines, kind of like you do with EdChat, but we're close enough that we could, actually maybe make a connection and go travel to each other's schools and work together to do things in a day's time. So that's exciting in and of itself. And I'm seeing a lot of administrators in the chat tonight, which is also very, very exciting, because I think another really important tenet of personalized learning is administrator buy-in. And that's true with anything in school culture, because if you don't have administrator buy-in, obviously you're not going to get very far. Especially with. Were you talking? I'm sorry, I did not get any of that.
No, and I was trying to, my tweets are going off now all of a sudden.
No.
It's hard to, you get so excited about some of the tweets, you forget that you're live on the camera. Because I have.
Oh yeah. Hey, no, we can take a break.
But I did just tweet out, a lot of times teachers ask me, or administration, especially since you gave a shout out to a lot of administrators in here, and one of the questions we might have missed, or I know it's coming up if we haven't missed it yet, is resources. And one of my favorite books has been Learning Personalized by Allison Zmuda. I did tweet it out a little bit ago, and I also just tweeted out her site, Learning Personalized. I think she's done an excellent job. We are featured in a couple of her things as well, but I feel like she's done the best job of really getting all the different elements from all different pieces, along with from all over the country. So it's not just the United States. So it's been interesting to see too, like what's Australia doing, or what's Canada doing. So I do want to give a shout out to that book as well, because that's been a very good one. And then also I just finished Learn Like a Pirate. And that was a great one because that was student-centric as well, and a lot of great classroom examples that teachers can do tomorrow in their classroom to help them on that continuum to get to a more personalized learning environment.
And you said that was Teach Like a Pirate?
Yes, it's so if you haven't read there's Teach Like a Pirate, which is also good. It's more middle school based, and has great strategies. But the second one is Learn Like a Pirate, and that's centric, and that just came out within the last, I say, month, by Paul. And now I totally forgot his last name, but he's on Twitter all the time. I'll tweet that out too.
Okay. Yeah, I would love to read that. I've noticed a whole lot of uptake on the Teach Like a Pirate book lately, and I've seen that all over Twitter, and at Ed Camp, Western North Carolina, a couple of weeks ago, a lot of people were talking about that book as well. So I would love to read both of them. I think I'm gonna have to just break down and buy them.
Yeah, and I know Paul sold out in 2 days, and they had to do it, and it was that popular.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, and he is a classroom teacher. He is a 5th grade teacher, so it's always good to hear a book from a teacher that's in practice.
Yeah, that's especially powerful. There's a book that was written by, oh, what's his name? Oh no. Oh, Principal L. Principal L. He wrote a book called Open a World of Learning, I think it was. And that was definitely an excellent read. And he is still an active principal, but he makes all these speaking dates. And I actually got to hear him speak at the NCASCD conference, and it was a really wonderful experience as well. So definitely for administrators and teachers alike, I think it's more powerful and cool to hear it from their perspective. Possible. Okay, so we're on question 6. So a lot of people are talking about question 6, which is, what has been the effect of technology on personalized learning? Explain. So we kind of already talked about that. You threw that out when you were talking about it actually making it possible now. So that kind of ties to the first question. But I'm interested to see if you've seen any other improvements due to technology, anything that has made personalized learning easier, anything that's made it more difficult, or anything about just its general role in shaping it.
So I'm going to start with the hard part for me is a lot of times when I say personalized learning, teachers, everybody, educators, parents automatically say technology. And so that's been a really hard shift for us to really focus on that instructional shift, and that technology is just that tool, that vehicle to help us use. And I think part of the reason this misconception comes is because so many products say we're the solution to personalized learning, when they're not necessarily the solution. I get why they have to say that to try to sell their product, but they're the tool that can help it, again, make it easier for teachers. So I think that misconception has made it hard. I know I still have to talk about how it's an instructional shift and go over things, even though it's been in our district for a little over a year now. People still come up to me and say, well, what technology am I going to get with this? And I have to be like, none. We were focusing on the instructional shift and talking about that. And I think that chart that I said earlier also helps a little bit, because at the bottom you can see we have blended learning and how it was a vehicle. And so that they can see that blended learning can work in all atmospheres. It can work in a differentiation, it can work in individualized, it can work in personalized. And so that helps teachers kind of see that misconception.
I'm tweeting out your quotes because they are just, they're so awesome. Vinspire needs to pick them up.
Well, thanks. And I know we have done a lot of work around our parents as well with the technology, because we don't want that misconception to be out there. And parents have concerns about screen time, and they are very, very valid concerns. We are not putting kids in front of the computers to watch these videos just because. There is a purpose and there is a meaning behind it, and they're not doing it all day long. I think a lot of times people think, oh, they're just sitting in front of the technology, why do we need the teacher? And that's what we're trying to show them. So one of the ways we've done that is have them come on our tours and actually see it in action. So they see, oh, there is still paper pencil. Oh, there is still group work going on. Oh, there is technology. They can see that it is a true blend of all these best practices together. It has helped with homework, though. I have to say, I think more parents thank me or thank us for giving homework that is technology-based, because if they don't know how to, do it, they have a place to go. So a lot of the times, I know when I did Flipped Classroom, when I was in the classroom, parents are like, thank you for that video. It helped me learn what you are teaching in the classroom, or what you're teaching in the classroom. So a great example is, I'm teaching the kids how to compare and contrast fractions and put them in order. and they're teaching them the butterfly method. And so to make sure that we're teaching that number sense, it helped the parents understand the why behind us teaching the number sense, and they were able to then help their child with their homework.
And that's a really cool thing. I also experienced similarly when I was in my classroom. I did a blended framework. I never fully flipped, but I sent videos home with the kids every so often, and they watched it. But I also opened up the school. I came early and let the kids come and watch before class or after. And I got some comments from parents that were pretty positive amidst the negative ones. About how they learned so much about the texts that we were studying. So like Things Fall Apart was a text that we studied. The Crucible was a text that we studied, and they were really pleased with, what we talked about. I actually sent a book home with a kid for a parent so that they could both read the book at the same time together. So I think that is what it's all about. And that is about, when you're talking about teaching to the whole child, I think that is an incredible thing, because you got parent buy-in, you got parents who are doing it alongside with their kids. It's awesome. And that's why the technology is important as the vehicle. So it's really inspiring to hear that. Could you talk about how you facilitated personalized learning in like a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1 device environment with students who may not have devices?
Yeah, so in our schools, we have at least 3 desktop computers. So we would, with those classes, we would make a schedule so that they could rotate, almost like a blended learning station rotation model. But we, instead of having the typical 3, we probably had like 4 or 5, just because only 3 students could get on at a time. We are lucky that our district has purchased a lot of devices for us. So our middle schools are all 1-to-1 as of now.
Oh, okay. Which
just started in December. So that has helped. And our schools have bought in a lot of devices as well. So there's I think all of our schools at least have 5 devices now in their classroom. So that can be a station where the students are at. And then some of our schools that we have, every school has BYOT. And so even our schools that are Title I, we are noticing that those students are bringing in the devices. They just don't have the internet service at home. So because we've provided guest network at our school, they're allowed to get on with their devices. So we are utilizing that as well. We hope to be, 1-to-1 district by 2018 is our goal. That will help, but right now it's just middle schools. But some of my personalized learning schools are 1-to-1. I do have a Title I K-5 school that has iPads K2 and then Chromebooks 3.5. And they did a grant, they did a lot of grants actually, and just slowly have purchased them throughout the years. And because they had pockets of iPads in different grade levels, they pushed all those iPads to K2 and then bought more devices for the 3.5.
Okay. So it's not about 1-to-1 though, and I think that's what's really important. You can facilitate a personalized learning environment and a blended learning environment without having, a ton of resources at your disposal. And we've got kind of the same thing going on in Newton Conover. We have plenty of devices. We try to put 3 to 4 to 5 in classrooms across the district, and then you've got carts that float around and media center labs and things like that. But it's all about making sure that you as a teacher are a reflective practitioner, and you think about your planning in such a way that you can give students access to all those devices. So if in high school that means taking 45 minutes of class for half the class to access devices, if you're 2-to-1, and if your combination of your, BYOT program gives you the opportunity to give half the students a device in class every day, then you need to think about, doing 45-minute chunks of teaching and giving half the class device access while the other half is doing something else, or group work or things like that. So there's always a solution, and I think that's a really cool part of personalized learning.
Agreed. A lot of great tools though people are talking about on Twitter. I know our teachers love Front Row. Lenspace has been something we've been utilizing to create our playlists and our pathways. Along with, we are a Google Apps for Education district, and so a lot of our pathways are also created in Google Docs and then shared with the students. So that has really helped us go paperless too, for those pieces.
Connie Hamilton has just shared a learner's perspective on personalized learning, which I think is really cool artifact. So it's actually got segregated into early, middle, and grad years, and it's separated actually also from a learner, teacher, school, family, and community role. I think it's really cool to see what that looks like, especially as the student matures. Because there is a lot of data that suggests the earlier that students do have the opportunity to implement personalized learning or a blended learning framework, the more likely they are to be successful, I guess, in school and continue later down the road. And we knew that about learning anyway, but like you're talking about the instructional shift that's taking place, the learner-centered shift, I think that the earlier we target it, the better it is. And this chart is something cool to think about. I haven't really read it, but I will go back and look at that later.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It is really interesting to see, and I like that. I talk a lot. I think something that we are lacking, that Finland is doing a great job of, is that that piece with play. Right, we're doing a lot with makerspace now, and trying to do more with passion-based learning. But I do see in her chart, the learner is I'm learning through play, and I think doing more of that. And learning from some of these other countries that are doing that would be really good. I like that chart. I'm favoriting it so I can get back.
Thank you, Connie, if you're listening. Question 8. What are some strategies to create a more personalized learning experience? Give examples. So specific strategies that could be used to facilitate personalized learning. So we've already talked about the pathways and how that works.
So we follow a balanced literacy approach. So one of the ways that we had really been making that a little bit more personalized, because it is very individualized already, with students working at their book level and everything, is having student-led conferring. And then also students know that they need to move up levels. So if I'm a D level reader, I know I need to get to an E, but I don't necessarily know why. So we have kind of created some almost like power standards, but power strategies. And so they understand what it takes to move from level to level and not just, hey, I'm moving up a level. So again, being that more purposeful, that's one way we have done it with literacy. Another way for our secondary schools is giving them choice and doing more themed-based, so that students have choice in their book, but they still can come together and have that seminar and those discussions based off a theme. So that has been something else, because that was one of the misconceptions, or a real hard shift for some of our secondary teachers. They liked having all the kids reading the same exact novel or short story, so they could have those discussions, which I agree those discussions are important, but you have so much more buy-in when you have choice. And there's a lot of articles that have been published in the last month also showing that. And then with math, again, going back to best practices of just small mini lessons and getting away from that lecture piece. I use Khan Academy a lot as an example. The reason why Khan only does 10 minutes, or like Lucy Calkins only does 10 minutes, is because that is what our brain can really take in and absorb for those skills. After that, we pretty much stop listening. And so having those 10-minute mini lessons really helps the student over a period of time. Those are just a few ways that you could implement in the next few days in your classroom. And then always adding just student choice and voice. And I think that misconception of that you have to give them a ton of choices, you really just have to give them 2. That is enough. And that sometimes helps teachers then say, okay, I can add a couple more options in here. Or, hey, this is the project that I want to give. Let them decide how they want to show mastery. That some kids can make an iMovie, some kids can make a Prezi or whatever it is, but that choice in that presentation really helps that ownership piece as well. All very practical strategies, though.
I could not agree more.
Okay, I thought I lost you.
No, 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 you're still there. I'm still here. Sorry, I think that I'm a little bit behind. I'm not sure. It seems like everything's coming in a little bit late or something. I'm not sure. Okay, so we're on our last question, and we still have a great chat going on. So thank you so much to everybody who came out and made Carolina Ed possible, especially a special shout out to Chris and Jill. You guys have done a phenomenal job with between the panel and the Twitter chat tonight. It's been a really dynamic learning experience and a great discussion, definitely, with you, Jill. So an excellent evening. Great way to spend the evening for sure. So question 9, Chris has posted, it says, what will you do, create, or propose to integrate personalized learning in your class, school, or district? So this is kind of a heavy question. Nobody's jumped on it yet.
No.
So, because it does ask you to think about ways that you can take this back. So I'm interested to see what our participants are going to say. For me, I think the first thing I would want to do is I'm a planner, and I like to, before I start a process, I like to have everything mapped out. That's not to say that I'm always the most organized individual, but I do like to keep everything mapped out and organized. So the first thing that I would do if I was still in the classroom would probably be to take my curriculum and figure out the different pathways that I would need, because I honestly don't know how that would work to start with. So I would probably take the pathways concept that you guys have and figure out how to map the standards to my different pathways and figure out how to map, I guess, the end of the class. So that would be the first thing that I would start.
I have to say, I'm starting to do my next Personalized Learning Institute with the PL Cohort 2, and I've gotten a lot of great ideas from here. And even one of my teachers even said, hey, do you want to do a Voxer book study with Cohort 1 on that book that came out, with Allison Zamuda one that I suggested?
Mm-hmm.
That's a great idea. So I might be looking into doing a Voxer group on that with our PL Cohort 1 schools.
Oh, that would be so awesome. So have you been able to use Voxer with a lot of people and it's been good, or?
Well, I have to go back and try Voxer again. I was not a fan in the beginning. I was in a few different groups, maybe in too many groups at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I checked my phone, I had 350 messages from all these different groups, and then having to listen to them all because you want to participate. It was just a little too much for me. At least, with Twitter, you can go at your own speed and kind of pick and choose things,
Mm-hmm.
that you want. So I will have to relook at how I set that group up. I might actually, even though that's a good idea to do Voxer, I might help our teachers start learning Canvas, make a module.
Oh, yes.
Do it that way.
Oh, that's great.
So I'll think about it, but the idea of a book study with that Cohort 1 was a great idea.
Yeah, now for as far as Voxer goes, I think a book study would be an excellent way to use Voxer, because you've got that discussion that's always going and it's asynchronous, and the archival part is also a great idea. So yes, kudos to you. That is an excellent idea. Chris is sharing that he really likes the book study idea, and he says also add me on Voxer. His username is cbear216.
I can do that, Chris.
I just added him.
Thank you, because I think I even deleted the app off of my phone because I was like, so I'll have to go back.
Yes, and add me as well. I can't tell you my username right now because I honestly don't know it.
I don't know what mine is either, but I can do that. Well, this has been a lot of fun, and it looks like a lot of great ideas. I can't wait to go back through this.
Yes, I'm so excited, and thank you so much for sharing your expertise. Both of you, you guys have done awesome. It's been great, Jill, to have you in the panel to discuss. Chris, you've been doing a great job. Chris is watching me, right?
Collaboration going. I really like conversation I'm hearing from you guys.
So let's make sure that we do, of course, makes this actionable and figure out ways to take this back into our schools. And if you have any questions, I'm sure that nobody in our leadership group tonight would have any problems answering your questions. We're always a tweet away. Please do go back to check the NC Ed blog for archives, and we would love to have you, if you're interested in moderating a future NC Ed chat, to come out and let us know. So there's a Google form online for that as well. We're also in the process of updating the NC Ed website because it is in need of a makeover. So that will be released soon as well, and we will be sharing that. Special thanks to South Carolina Ed as well for coming and partnering with us. Hopefully this will not be the last time that we do that. So super thanks to everybody. It's been a great, great evening.
Thank you, and a great idea.
Well, I guess with that, we will hang it up, and thank you guys so much, unless you guys have anything you'd like to add last minute.
Nope, but I just realized now where I see my messages on this.
On Voxer?
Yeah.
Man, it's
Always
great. Yes, I love Voxer. It's a great way to stay connected, and it's just so cool. I have so many groups, but like you, I do get overwhelmed, so I need to make sure. I probably need to remove myself from some of the groups, to be honest.
Yeah, the ones that are just talking because they're talking, I gotta move myself to those.
Exactly. Okay, well, I will talk to you guys very soon, and thank you so much for a wonderful evening. I know everybody appreciates your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.